Hello everybody, my name is Crystal. I hope everyone has had or is having a great day today. Here in Rochester it's been very cold and chilly. Just been sat by the heater. I went out with Max around 2 p.m. ish. I really didn't want to go outside. I forced myself out. It's very foggy, it's dark. Anybody that suffers from SAD, seasonal affection, seasonal affective disorder, will understand that when the weather is like this, it makes depression worse. And just to get outside is very difficult for some people that suffer depression and anxiety like myself. I'm not agoraphobic. I personally have a social phobia of meeting lots of people, coming into contact with lots of people. I'm trying to overcome it myself, and I hold my head up high now and just walk straight ahead and walk past people when I used to avoid and get myself in some dangerous situations by avoiding what you don't like. And this is what the gang stalkers know about me. When I've gone to the doctors, etc., and I've explained to people that I suffer from depression and anxiety, it's like somebody knows inside my mind that I'm going to go the other way. If I see a load of people, I'm going to go around the other way. Now I will hold my head up high and do my best to walk past them. This is how I've nearly got run over. By avoiding people and going into the road, has nearly got me run over. So we've got to stop doing that. And just not looking out the window and going outside and fuck what's going on outside, just going through it, minding my own business and just walking through whatever it is going on. Whereas I would look out the window, see what was outside, try and avoid it. But it's, it's, I've got to stop doing that. So I walked out of the front of the flats, and there was a guy coughing by his car. I didn't even turn around to look. I just made sure that there was no traffic coming that way, crossed over, and then I walked up to the field. On the way there was a Dreams lorry. Again, this is coming from TikTok. I stupidly answered one of these messages thinking it was someone being nice, wanting to be my friend. I didn't think it was a nasty person that wanted to take the fucking piss, because I'm a nice person. So one of these questions was, Crystal, what would you do with a certain amount of money? Before I realised this was just happening to loads of other people as well, and it's just some idiot going around and being nasty to people, I said I'd like a new bed, because I've got a shitty fucking old thing in there that I want to get rid of. And I told this person that. So staring me in the face is a Dreams lorry with a picture of two women with their smiling straight teeth staring at me as I'm walking onto the field. And I taped it, and I didn't get cross or angry. I don't know who's doing this to me, but it's not nice, and I don't think anybody else thinks it's very nice either. Me and my mother are two separate people, and you've seen me and my mother together in videos, so there's no excuse to mix me up with my elderly mother. None at all. So ignoring this Dreams beds lorry, I just went onto the field. There was a woman coming down the path with a bright yellow coat and a beanie. The fisherman was still there with his tent, and there was a couple walking in front of me, and I'd rather there was people about Then what had happened once, a group of kids on bicycles coming towards me and Max, and there was nobody there at all. So that was great. I let Max off for a bit. He had a bit of a run and a walk, but the field is damp. The air is hard to breathe in. This fog again, this mist, with a feeling I can't breathe, there's no air. And I walked around the field and I came off, but I cannot say that I'm in an ecstatic, happy mood today, because I'm not. And as the day's gone on, I feel worse and worse and worse. But I try and cover it up, if you know what I mean. Possessions mean nothing to me. We own them for very limited amounts of time. I don't get jealous. I couldn't care less what somebody's got. I try to help and give if I've got it to give to somebody, and I haven't got much myself. I don't go around showing off. When I'm doing a video showing that I've got something, I mean, it's to show people that I've got something, and if they'd be interested in getting it themselves. I'm not showing off. I haven't been into the co-op like I usually do. The cost of living's gone up. My mum cannot help me anymore, and that's the end of it. I myself have not been on holiday for over 12 years, whether it be in this country or out of it. There's just not the finances. There isn't. So I'm glad when I've gone out for a walk and I've got fresh air and I've seen outside. I don't show off. So I came back home. There's a big box on the floor, and I walked past it. Nothing in my mailbox. I mean, my mum's told me her circumstances. I'd rather it was empty than filled with pizza leaflets, or fucking bills, or debt letters, or demands. So my mailbox completely empty. I came back up to my flat, and you know it. There's people out there that want to wear me down, shove what they've got in my face, wear me down, and it's not. I'm trying to not let it happen. And we all go through that. All of us, each day we go outside, we're influenced by what we see, by what we hear, by what we watch. Right? I don't want to be particularly miserable. I would like to be able to go out, but the cost of living is expensive. Me, myself, I'm just surviving because most of my money is now going on the heating. It is freezing. We've had a cold spell here in Great Britain, and it's cold. But the cost of heating, electricity and gas has gone up. And you have to be careful how many showers you have. You know what I mean? And that's all I'm worried about. I keep going out to the electricity meter box. I've put over £40 on the bloody thing, and it's gone down again. Over the past, since Thursday, it must have had about £40 on it. It's low again. And the food, you're lucky if you get 3 or 4 items out of a £10 note now. I went up to my mum's, but I go up to see my mum, not for her to give me money. Basically, I don't expect her to give me any money. I came back with nothing. So I've got enough money if I need to put something on my electricity, or I have to decide, next week, am I going to get bread, milk and bits and pieces, or is that going to go on the electricity meter? So there you are, there's no parcels this weekend, there's no post. Sunday, the shop's shut at 4 here in Great Britain, and there's no mail on a Sunday. Is there? I think it's disgusting that we can't find somebody to talk to face. That's all gone now, whether it be talking to a doctor or getting some help and a support. Why is it so damn hard? Why are people still using COVID as an excuse? I've got into taxis with the COVID screen still on them. You know, it's gone now, this COVID business. It should stop being used as an excuse. Before COVID, we went to face doctor's appointments. We saw people. It's ridiculous, absolutely. And my elderly mother, right? I've rung my mother this afternoon, and I'm glad I did. It's not the kettle. So my mum has been bought a new kettle, and she plugged it in, and it won't come on. So she can't heat the kettle. She can't put the kettle on for a cup of tea. So the electricity's gone. So surely her housing has got emergency people on there that can come out to help an elderly woman of nearly 80. Her neighbour is going to phone her housing on Monday. So she has no use of a kettle. Her cooker's packed in, and she's got a cooker, but my father did not have it plugged in. He didn't have someone out to come and fix it in, so she's now got no cooker either. The cooker's gone. She's got a microwave, yes, but I mean, she can't oven cook things, you know. So I am now going to have to see if I can buy my mother an oven out of my benefit. Buy her one of these halogen ovens. And believe you me, I haven't got much myself. I haven't. I've got a microwave oven. I have a cooker. I do have a cooker. But my dad didn't even bother to get their cooker fixed in properly, because that's the way it was. He didn't like people in the house, in the flat. It was like that when I was a kid. He wouldn't have. My mum's recently had her bathroom done. He wouldn't have any of that. He didn't like people inside the flat. So my mother is sat there unable to make herself a cup of tea. It's the same for me. If things pack it, I can't replace them. They're just unaffordable items. I can't replace mine if they pack in. It's ridiculous, the cost of everything's gone up. You know, my money's taken up with bills and heating. And I'm going to have to get my mum a halogen oven, which is going to cost me about £40, I believe. Which I'm going to, I said I'll give me a couple of weeks and I'll get you one. Here's me saying I need a bed, and now I've got to buy my mum items. I've got to get her a heater as well, because the heaters she's got in her council flats are ancient and they're not working properly, and it was cold last time I went up there, so I'm going to have to take a heater up. Anyway, I'm going to put the radio on now for a bit. Let's see what's going on.
In memory of 15-year-old supporter Harvey Wildgoose. The teenager was stabbed at his school in Sheffield on Monday. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has confirmed a new Ukrainian offensive in Russia's Kursk region. He says North Korean troops are fighting alongside Russian forces there. Russia said it had repelled a Ukrainian counterattack in the Kursk region. The Fire Brigades Union has told LBC it's repeating calls to introduce health checkups for firefighters. A report last month revealed the long-term effects of the Grenfell Tower fire on more than 500 crew who responded. The Health Minister, Andrew Gwynnes, told us that he's open to considering a programme to monitor their health. New FBU General Secretary Steve Wright is making it one of his top priorities.
Firefighters are being let down, we believe, by the employers and the government, that the Labour government has a huge opportunity right now to right that wrong. We want to work with them to do it. So I welcome the remarks that Andrew made, saying they're going to look at things seriously. He's great, but actually we need firmer decisions on this. We need a time frame.
The PlayStation Network's been hit by a worldwide outage. The system, which allows console users to play games against each other online, first went down last night. The tech giant says it's aware of the issue and is working to resolve it as soon as possible. And health alerts have been issued for parts of the UK as the country is told to prepare for another cold snap. The UK Health Security Agency has applied them to northern and southeastern England, saying they'll remain in place until Tuesday. LBC weather tonight will be largely cloudy with occasional rain and also hill snow in the north. Some clearer spells, especially in northern Scotland and southern England, giving a risk of frost there, a low of 3 degrees. From Global's Newsroom for LBC, I'm Simon Morgan.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Vanessa Feltz.
Lovely listener, welcome to the programme. If you've just joined me, a very warm and cordial good afternoon to you. You've missed a very moving, I think, first hour of the show about whether Grenfell Tower should or should not be demolished, as Angela Rayner has said it will be over the next 2 years. All right, this is what we're going to get stuck into now. Universities failing to promote diversity will face funding cuts. What does that mean? Universities that fail to champion diversity face cuts to their research budgets under a funding plan that critics warn will put ideological conformity above academic excellence. Under proposals to reform how £2 billion a year of taxpayer funding is allocated for academic research, universities will have to show that they are robustly, I quote this, robustly tackling inequities and promoting diversity and inclusion across all areas of their activities. In particular, they'll have to demonstrate that the percentage of Black, Asian and mixed race academics eligible for funding and provide evidence of the percentage of promotion success per underrepresented groups. And I wonder what you think about this. Maybe you think, well, that's a jolly good idea, because if it were not to be implemented in this kind of way, then it means that only those who are privileged, those who are the recipients of a private school education, those who come from particular strata of society will get the money and get the glittering prizes and get the good jobs and end up running the country, and other people will not. And unless there is positive discrimination, which is now described as diversity, you could say, then there's nothing that can be done about social mobility. If you're born into a poor family, a house with no books in it, if you go to a failing school, if you're scared at school, if you're scared of knife crime, if there are gangs prevalent in your area, if you come from a family where nobody's ever been to university or had any higher education, and the university doesn't try to scoop you up and give you the chance and the leg up to come and study there, then you'll be condemned to live a similar life to everybody else in your family. You won't be socially mobile, and we're meant to, aren't we? Aren't we supposed to think that social mobility is a good idea, that we want people to have equal opportunities, that whatever your start in life, you should have the same opportunity as other people who've had a more privileged start to, gain academic plaudits, learn stuff, see the world, get a good job, improve your family's position in life and just have a more fulfilled life in which your potential is maxed out, rather than people stay in their silos and they never do branch out. Isn't that what we're trying to do? So do we need active diversity policies at universities, or Do you think this is all somehow terribly skewed and wrong? Because university is meant to be about academic excellence. You're meant to choose the pupil or the student with the best qualifications, the highest grades, to come to your university so that they can go on to achieve the highest grades in return, and so that you're promoting academic excellence and fostering ability and nurturing those who are most intellectually gifted. Isn't that the whole point of university? We're not talking about work in a burger bar. We're not talking about work in a tech company. We're talking about university, which is about studying, isn't it? So what will happen if universities are penalised if they fail to deliver on diversity? You must have a view on this one. You must have a view on social mobility. You must have a view on what the purpose of university is, whether you did go or whether you didn't go, what you think it's for, what it's meant to do and achieve. And you must have a view on whether you think it is right to penalise universities for failing in whatever their diversity goals are supposed to be. Do you think that's the correct way? It's not carrot this time, it's stick. 0345 6060 973. When you were at university, if you went, did you notice a lack of diversity? Did you notice that everybody seemed to be from the same background as you, maybe? Maybe all your fellow private school pupils were there, all just having a delightful time, being exactly as they were at school and just on their lovely path that had already been mapped out for them into some kind of professional career and success. And you didn't really see anyone else because no one else got in. And nobody thought of it, nobody mentioned it, it wasn't a thing. Maybe that's what it was like when you were at university. Or maybe it was very different, and maybe you could see that some people had been sort of scooped in specially, and maybe they were given some extra classes, and maybe they were given a bit of extra hand-holding, but maybe they went on to achieve considerable academic results and be an excellent contributor to the university. I don't know. Let me know what you think about this one. 0345 6060 973. I give you, universities failing to promote diversity will face funding cuts. What do you give me in return? 0345 6060 973. Let us begin by discussing this with Eric Kaufmann, Professor of Politics at the University of Buckingham and author of Taboo. Hello, good to see you. Thanks for joining me.
Good to be here, Vanessa.
So tell me about these penalties that might be put in place and what will happen if they are.
Well, yes, they're quite significant carrots and sticks that are there to incentivize universities to essentially meet metrics for hiring and promoting women and also minority groups. This then feeds into their research ranking and the amount of money they get from Research England, which dispenses £2 billion of taxpayers' money. But in addition, actually, more importantly, I think, gives departments their ranking, which feeds into their esteem and into their ranking, which then is used to attract students.
Are we supposed to think that up till just a few years ago, the only criterion upon which admission to university or research funding at university was given was academic excellence, and then it was suddenly kind of flung into the mix? But hang on a minute, what about all these kids from comprehensive schools? What about all these people who aren't actually white and male? What about all these individuals who actually could have something tremendous to contribute but haven't been put necessarily on a fast track to this kind of university study or an academic career? Hang on, what about them? You've got to go out and find them, you've got to nurture them, you've got to invite them, you've got to persuade them that this is the right place for them, and then you've got to amend whatever's going on accordingly so they fit. What about that?
Well, I think that's been going on for a long time. I don't think anyone's saying not to try and have a broad pipeline. I do think people are saying that once you start putting metrics and targets in, then you start incentivizing discrimination on the basis of race and sex, so against, say, whites and men, or perhaps Asians as well, in order to hit your targets. And that is going to lead to worse research outcome. And it's also very unfair on individuals who are discriminated against on the basis of race and sex. And in fact, all of the evidence in the studies of this do not show race and sex discrimination in academia, in publishing, in hiring. There's no evidence, no systematic evidence for it. And not only that, women and minorities are not underrepresented in the academic faculties.
If they're not, then what's all this fuss about? Is it tokenism? Is it just to be seen to be making a fuss and say diversity, the D word, come on? When you're saying there's no lack of it, it's perfectly evident that it's absolutely a mixed bunch of bright people who are just if they've got something to contribute, they contribute, the end.
This is an ideology, Vanessa, and it's DEI ideology, which I call cultural socialism. which is fine. It's an ideology, and of course, academia is a place that leans. You know, in the social sciences, about 9 to 1 left to right in terms of the faculty. Those who are attracted into policymaking on these research-funded councils are activists, and they are going to push this agenda regardless. So I think, and I think the problem is this is ideologically driven, and it is not evidence-based. And in fact, it's not just the $2 billion in the Research England funding, but there is another $7 billion doled out by research councils. And DEI is also shot through in their metrics as well. Now, if you were right and talented people were not getting in because of some kind of bias or discrimination, then what we should see is when we actually do, we should see those people from those minority groups actually doing better because they've been kept out and they're more talented than others who are getting in who are less talented. In fact, we see the reverse. And the little evidence that we have shows, in fact, it's the opposite. So the problem is there's a trade-off between DEI and research excellence. There's also a trade-off with academic freedom because one of the key components of this is fostering some kind of environment that is very inclusive. And that means clamping down on any speech or ideas that are going to be seen as offensive to members of these groups. And that means you're going to bite your tongue. And that means we've got all the problems that we've seen in the universities around cancel culture, targeting people for what they've said online, etc. So I just think it's really negative for excellence and academic freedom.
So if universities bow to this pressure, and they probably will because it's financial, it'll hurt them if they don't. If they do, what are we likely to see as a result, and what are we not likely to see? Is would the results be something that might trouble my lovely listeners here at LBC, or is this a tiny little coterie of academics, and honestly none of us really care less whether they're happy or not happy, whether they're in the university, they're not in the university, whether they get the research grant, they don't get it, we don't care, their families care, we couldn't care less, or is this something that ultimately will affect us because the new vaccine for the next pandemic won't be found because somebody was given the grant or not given the grant? How important is any of this anyway?
Well, there's a number of ways it's important. I mean, one, I mentioned there's £9 billion of taxpayers' money in a time of austerity that's being spent on research. Now, there's a lot of great research that's being done. I've been an academic, but there's also a lot of nonsense and a lot of money is being wasted. So that's the first thing. That's money that's not going on police and hospital beds and so on. In addition to that, I think this is about mainstreaming an ideology which is actually clamping down on free speech, on the pursuit of truth. So it has an impact in the culture.
I mean, that's a bit of a leap, isn't it? I mean, when you say and first of all, some of the language you use is utterly impenetrable to normal people, and I include myself in that. You know, what did you say? Mainstreaming an ideology. What the hell is that in English for a start? I don't know how you mainstream an ideology, and lots of people won't know what ideology you're talking about. You keep assuming that everyone knows what you're saying. You need a bit of translating, I'm afraid. You've been too long in that ivory tower and too little communicating with ordinary people such as moi, who need you to explain what you mean. So when you say mainstreaming the ideology, try and say it in words that I could understand. That would help me.
But here's the ideology, really simply. It's equal outcomes by race and sex. So whatever the percentages in the population of women, say 50, or minorities, whatever it be, 15%, that has to be mirrored in your hiring. That's what I mean by equal outcomes. And then the inclusion part is protecting from emotional harm, including microscopic emotional harm. So if I say, you know, immigration is leading to decline in income per capita, I mean, whether it does or not, if I find that in my research and someone finds that offensive, then they could sort of complain that I'm a problem, and someone like me probably wouldn't be hired and certainly couldn't get published. So, you know,
so hang on. So in other words, people listening to this might assume that if you are diverse and inclusive and you know, have equity and equality, fraternity and all that stuff at your core, that would mean that you would be open to all sorts of ideologies and thought processes, and you'd be welcoming people of different genders and different backgrounds and everything else. And so it would be a liberal environment primarily because there'd be so many different people making up this academic coterie. But actually you're saying no, because diversity and inclusivity is such a kind of straitjacket of an idea that you wouldn't be able to say anything at all that might offend a particular kind of person. I think most people would call them woke. Is that what you're saying?
Well, exactly. So I think what it leads to is going to be a narrowing, not a broadening of intellectual inquiry, because you can't offend. Because offense leads to an environment which isn't inclusive. So inclusion, the flip side of inclusion is censorship and cancel culture. The flip side of diversity and equity is discrimination on the basis of race and sex and a lack of merit and excellence.
So it's meant to be the exact opposite, and you're saying it isn't.
It's a euphemisms, velvet gloves which conceal the iron fist. They never talk about the iron fist, but that discrimination, lack of equal treatment, and the clamping down on free speech and the pursuit of truth is part and parcel of this nice-sounding, inclusive ideology.
All right, Eric, thank you so much. Good to talk to you. That's Eric Kaplan, there, Professor of Politics at University of Buckingham, taking your calls on this.
Right, guys, I'm just going to have a break for 5 minutes. See you later.